Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have a special guest. It's Patrick Mahoney. He's from Grace Harbor College. He's a Forest Resource Management instructor. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Mahoney, or Patrick, last year when we did the Earth Day and cleanup. Him and his students and a couple other agencies made a huge impact at Mill Creek, and we are looking forward to partnering with him today or this year. And so he's been working with his students to put together a plan. And so Patrick, I'm going to let you take it from here. Okay.
All right. Thank you. I guess kind of the real short background on this is, as all of you are aware, the city of Cosmopolis is a little short when it comes to the budget. And in particular, there just isn't a lot of funding available for parks maintenance. I believe you have one city maintenance employee?
Right.
Is that right?
That's right. Our parks, though, just to kind of add to that, our parks have all been adopted. In fact, we have Marnie Schumacher and John Schumacher who have adopted Mill Creek Park with other volunteers. And so that's kind of how we get through maintaining our parks in the city here.
Yeah.
With volunteerism. So you're right. We have.
Kind of given that, lack of a funded, city maintenance position to keep up on things, volunteer work is wonderful, but there's a lot that needs to be done out there. And so Mayor Springer had reached out to me a year or so ago, and we started having some conversations about what our forestry program might be able to contribute. So last year we kicked that off with an Earth Day cleanup event out of Mill Creek Park, and we've done some assessments since then, trying to do a better job of getting a handle on exactly what the park needs, what's good, what's not so good, and then thinking of ways that we could come up with plans that would help the city meet that maintenance need in light of your budget crunch. So, at kind of a cursory level, what I'd say about the park in general is the biggest thing it needs is just some serious vegetation management. And it needs it in a couple of different ways. There's a lot of invasive species that have been taking over areas of the park. So many of the hillsides are covered in Himalayan blackberry. A lot of the trees have English ivy that is creeping up them. There is concerningly a chunk of knotweed that I noticed right by the outlet of Mill Creek. There is spotted jewelweed in the back, and then over the last few years, during the summers when the water level gets low, you may have noticed that the pond itself has started grassing in. That's all reed canary grass, which is a highly invasive grass species. So we have multiple invasive species issues, all of which are manageable. But these are mostly plants that are on the state's list. They're classified in the category essentially of plants that are not on our highest priority because they are everywhere and they are just about impossible to fully eradicate. So they take a lot of active, ongoing management to keep them at bay. The other vegetative concerns we have would be that while there is currently quite a bit of standing forest, maybe, and I'm just ballparking some numbers here, maybe half of what is currently standing is older alder. Oops, sorry, my laptop times out periodically. That alder is getting to an age where it is declining. Red alder is actually a relatively short-lived species. 100 years is really old for a red alder. Most of the time, red alder starts declining around 60 to 80 years old. And so what that means is that The alder trees that are there right now, they've got, I'm just estimating, 20 years, most of them will be dying. And that's going to lead to some obvious hazards because all of these trees are near trails. Some of them are quite close to the tennis courts that have just been refurbished. So we kind of looked at all that. And in the fall, what I had my students work on is I had them create a plan, which is you've got two of the shining examples of those plans I think that were provided for you. What I had them create is we call it an integrated pest management plan. I asked them to kind of reframe that a little bit to fit the park, but really the idea of integrated pest management is the idea that we want to tackle a problem like an invasive species by using multiple different methods. Because we know from a lot of experience that, for example, if we just use herbicides, that could be effective for a year or two, but if we use the same herbicide in consecutive years over and over, eventually the plants that aren't killed initially will develop a resistance to it, and then what we'll have is a crop of invasive plants that are now resistant to that chemical. If we only do mechanical treatment, we can knock it back. The idea of integrated pest management is to use all of those strategies simultaneously. So starting with, in this case, since a lot of this is very heavy, starting with manual removal, then using things like herbicides to treat what's coming up, using an herbicide regime where we're switching what chemical we're using each year so that the plants aren't able to build resistance, and then at the same time thinking about what we can put in the ground to occupy that space. Because if you just go through and you remove an invasive plant and you don't put it back anything native to occupy that space, guess what comes back? More invasive plants. So it's more complicated than just getting rid of the stuff that we don't want. We also need to plan for how we bring back the plants we do want. So there's a lot of work to do with that. Right now, we're kind of still at the stage where one of the most effective things we can do is just to start with mechanical manual treatment. So a lot of what we did last year was just removal. We cut a lot of blackberry out. We cut a lot of ivy out. We had a couple of weed whackers going that were working on mulching up that blackberry as much as possible. Oh, I forgot to mention there's also holly, which is not technically listed as an invasive plant currently, but should be and will be hopefully soon. So we did as much physical removal as possible. We really concentrated, we used a minimal amount of herbicide, really concentrated that just on treating Scotch brew, which is a particularly difficult invasive plant to manage. And so that was done with a cut stem treatment. So what that means is, and I actually did this personally myself, every Scotch broom plant I could find, I cut the stem about 3 inches above the ground line, chopped that stem up, applied triclopyr directly to that cut stem. That makes sure that the chemical goes exactly into the plant that I want and does not accidentally spread to other plants nearby that I'm not intending to kill. And that's highly effective. We wanted to prioritize that Scotch broom last year because when that stuff goes to seed, those seeds can remain viable in the soil for, the estimates vary, but somewhere around 80 to 100 years. So you can kill the plant, and it could still potentially come back a century later if you allow it to go to seed one time. It's one of the worst invasive species we deal with. And funny enough, an invasive species that we have in this state because the DOT used to intentionally use it to seed in all of their cut banks on roadworks. So, now unfortunately, most of the invasive species that we deal with today are things that were intentionally introduced with good intentions, not understanding the consequence of where that would end up. We did a lot of that. Looking back, you know, that's been about a year now since we did that work last April. Looking back at it now, a lot of that area where we cut that blackberry A lot of that blackberries come back in, as we expect. So it'd probably take several years of knocking that back. But if we really want to be effective with it, we probably need to be more aggressive. And really what that means is shifting to a combination of mechanical removal, and then Roundup would actually be the most effective thing for all of that blackberry. So that's what I would very much like to be able to do. If we can knock the blackberry down pretty much to the ground line and then treat the cut stems with Roundup, that will be a very effective treatment. If we followed that up the next year by doing the same thing on the resprouts and then hitting them with something else like 2,4-D, which is your other widely, commonly sold herbicide, that 1-2 combo is usually very effective. But if we just keep cutting it, it will keep growing back every year. And so we'll kind of just be in a perpetual cycle of cutting it. Long term, I think what would be really effective for the park would be to slowly, or perhaps rapidly, depending on how we want to approach it, remove the older alder that are dying, particularly in the areas where they're close to trails in any of your facilities, just to remove that risk. But then we want to get something else coming back, preferably conifers, something that will be long-lived, can be around for a long time. There are really two, sorry, let me get to my map. There are really two priority areas within the park where we have this older alder. So if you're familiar with kind of the layout of the park, this map is oriented north. The pond is here, the dam is here. This patch of alder right here in this zone, this is one of the concern areas. In fact, you can actually see, you see these gray trees right there. Those are dead standing alder. Some of the others look green because they're actually full of ivy and are also standing dead. And that ivy is concerning too because it kills the trees and then stays up in their canopy, and it really becomes a sail. And so when we get big windstorms, that's one of the factors that can lead to those trees blowing over. So in that area, there's a lot of older alder that probably should be removed. The other area where there's a lot of that would be on the west side of Mill Creek. Now, this section of the park is largely unused by visitors because there's no trails in there currently. We see some real potential to do vegetation work in that section of the park and potentially to develop some new trails. If you look at the overall area of the park, that's a significant chunk of what Mill Creek Park is. We could potentially increase trail network by maybe a third or half of what's currently existing by just building a simple loop trail through there. So that's kind of a longer term idea. Most of the rest of the park in the forest is relatively healthy. So the forest area in the back of the park, kind of between the ponds and then the golf course, that's one of the nicer forest areas in the park. It's mostly Doug fir, fairly healthy trees. There is some ivy along the edges, which again is a little concerning, but it's something that's a little easier and safer to mitigate on those conifers because that tree is stouter, that tree is still alive right now. Pulling ivy out of dead and dying alder is kind of risky because, you know, you get loose branches and you're standing directly underneath it. It's also very difficult to do. Ivy is a hard plant to remove. If we could treat the ivy that's in that area and then the holly sprouts that are coming up in there, that's really all that we needed in the back section. a lot of different things that we'd ideally like to see being done at Mill Creek Park. The other item that's worth mentioning, and this isn't something that my program would really be suited for working on, would be the footbridge that has fallen apart. It would be wonderful to find some grant funding or find someone who would be willing to step in and help with that and get that rebuilt so that the trail system could go all the way around the pond again. And I know just from the short amount of time that we've spent in the park doing some of this work and running into members of the community who are coming through and telling us how excited they are to see us, doing this work. One of the number one comments I got is, "Are you going to fix the bridge?" I said, well, not right now, but we're working on that. So one of the things I'm hoping that some of these plans and the maps that we've produced maybe could help you with would be in some grant applications. I think there's a lot of funding potentially that the city could be eligible for. And just having some plans written out like this can be a really helpful part of putting in for that sort of funding. So that's a little bit kind of out of my wheelhouse, so to speak. But certainly something that, we might be able to lend some labor for. So the other plan here, oops, sorry, not that one, this one. The other plan here, the two plans I provided, I think both do a really good job of outlining some of the details, particularly with the invasive species and what they need and what the right management strategy would be. But I was particularly happy with this plan, and I was actually hoping that Kevin is my student who put this together. I was hoping he might be able to be here tonight, but he's very busy. He washes trucks for Brumfield in the evenings after class, full time. Kevin has a really wonderful background in recreation and outdoor work, and he has a real strong interest in working on policy and working with small governments. And so he really took this project and the plan that he wrote, I thought was really innovative. What I think is particularly helpful here is that Kevin thought about the challenges of the city funding. And this little table right here is something that he came up with. And the idea of this is that if we could get a couple of different entities on board, we could get potentially maybe 9 to 10 productive work days per year. And that could actually do a lot. Mill Creek Park is not a big area. There's a lot that needs to be done, but it's not a big area. Based on what we were able to accomplish last year, and we also did a second cleanup day ourselves later in the spring. I think if we were to get 8 to 10 work days a year in total, we could really get some stuff done at the park. My program potentially could commit 2 to 3 coordinated work days each year, with Earth Day being the big one, and then perhaps a few others at other times. If the city could commit the maintenance staff to working 3 or 4 days a year, just focusing on the park. And then if we could get the Grace Harbor Stream Team to coordinate events out of the park, and the Noxious Weed Control Board, we could put together a pretty effective group. And part of the idea in laying this out is really tapping into the specialties of each of these different groups. So the Noxious Weed Control Board is our county, well, I mean, it's in the name right there. They're the group that is primarily responsible for invasive species management in Grays Harbor County. So they're the technical experts and the most appropriate people to be looking at current invasive species and thinking about things like what the appropriate herbicide treatment might be, They have all the licenses to apply herbicides, including in aquatic areas if necessary. Our forestry program, we really kind of have the extra hands, so to speak. We have a pretty talented group of students that are pretty competent with chainsaws and brush cutters and tools like that, and are not afraid to get out and just get all the way, knee deep into a pile of blackberries and tear them apart. The stream team, I don't know if any of you have ever volunteered with Grays Harbor Stream Team, but they're coordinated through the Conservation District, but it's a community volunteer group. They can really get some amazing work done very quickly, and they're very effective at both invasive species removal and riparian planting, are the two things that they do primarily. Some of the things that we are less able to do, but where the city maintenance staff could really come in, would be in more of the removal of some of the larger woody debris. Utilizing some of the small equipment the city has, being able to take out some of the larger pieces of debris, get them out. And one of the things that would really be wonderful would be to be able to get a little more gravel on some of those trails and do some work like that, as well as needing to maintain the water level in the dam. If all those things could be handled by the city maintenance, I think we'd have a fairly effective and really low budget plan for getting work done. And so what this would look like then is, with the exception of the city maintenance staff, the rest of this would all be volunteer work. So that's kind of the overview. There's a lot of other details in the packets that were handed out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about that. But I think that's probably enough of me talking.
So Patrick, what I want to add is, we have, one of the things our goal was, because there was no water in the pond, and that was one of our goals, and we have kept the water, maintained it, and watched the level to the point that we actually have had fish and fishing happening, so that's been exciting. For the council, we, before any of this work happened, and Patrick can speak to that, we signed an insurance agreement with the college. So students are covered, the city is covered. And as far as the grants, when I looked at this information, because I'm always looking, the question comes to me all the time regarding the bridge in this document. That's the first thing I thought, this would be a very good concrete piece to add to some of the grants going forward. I do not see an issue with that help, and plus with our volunteers. And then also, as I showed with you the other day, LeMay's has partnered with us. And so removal of that stuff and dumping it, he's allowed us last year and going forward to do it at no cost to the city. So we kind of have a really win-win situation now.
So I have one question, this big area here that you're saying that runs up along Mill Creek Drive and all that. So the creek itself has quite an erosion problem going on. Was that anything that you looked at as far as that? Because it does, as the winters go through here, the grassy area that you're talking about, yeah, it slopes down, and then there is when you walk down there, you can see that, there is some erosion going on in that area. So that would have to be something that's looked at as far as doing anything else. So it's not getting made worse or whatever kind of thing, Because a lot of the trees that are on the drive side, Mill Creek Drive, they're the ones that are all leaning towards the park. Now, would that be part of taking those out before they actually decide to just keep on going? Because they're all going to land right on the creek is where they're going to land at.
Right. Where exactly are you concerned about the erosion?
Right where the entrance is, then it's all that green grass right there, just right before the creek. It's all lawn.
I got you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, right as you approach the creek,
Yeah.
there's significant, especially after the last couple of years, it's been, you can
Yeah.
see the erosion progressing, kind of deal. So I don't know if that is gonna require, because it's a fish creek and that whole thing, is there, any sort of that we could put up something that will kind of impede that, without impacting the creek, because I know sometimes you have to be wary of that, what you actually put in the creeks as far as that, or, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
here.
like
So
right where the edge,
uh,
basically where the culvert is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah, right there,
There's a
yeah.
nice little,
Yeah.
beautiful little lawn right there,
Yeah,
right
and
at the
then like,
entrance.
yeah, and it's starting, you can
Yep.
see where it's, yeah,
Oh,
you
that
gotta
cut bank is probably 3
Yeah.
feet.
oh yeah, it's
and-
pretty
and
significant, yeah,
So things that could be done cheaply and effectively that could control that would be planting willow stakes.
yeah, yeah.
It's a
I've
real
seen that done,
simple, low budget way to do it.
yeah.
Willows are wonderful because
Mm-hmm.
they're naturally, that's how they,
Right, they like
that's
the
how
water,
they reproduce.
they like water, yeah.
Yeah, and you can literally just go out, cut a bunch of stakes,
Alright,
jam them in the ground, and they just grow roots.
yeah,
And you can be strategic with them as well, and you can, what will be really effective there, and this is something we could look into doing and facilitating. You basically weave them together, so you drive a bunch of bigger willow stakes. I mean, I'm talking like you wanna
Yeah,
cut
I
them like
see them.
6 feet long
yeah,
and drive them in like almost like weaving a fence. And then you weave in and out in between them smaller willows, and that creates like a wattle.
yeah,
And as those willows develop roots, they're gonna develop roots into that bank and help retain all of that soil. Now, long-term, what that means is that we'll be creating a wall of willows
right,
that will kind of be, on the edge of that grassy area and in between there and the creek. So we could, there's already a nice area where the grass slopes down and you can walk right down the creek.
yeah, it varies, I
Yeah.
think that it's taller, the drop off is taller, closer to the culvert.
That would,
Yeah.
as far as low budget, natural ways to control that erosion, that would probably be the most effective thing to do. The other thing you could do is you could bring in rock,
Right,
and you could armor that entire bank with large riprap rock. That is not cheap.
no, it's not, yeah,
So it could be very effective,
yeah, right,
and that's probably what you see in most parks.
right,
On your other point about, like if we talking about removing trees, you're right. One of the things we have to be really conscious of would be the potential impact of
Right.
removing those trees and creating instability.
right,
So my vision for that, I need to actually get out and do more of a hazard tree specific assessment. Last year, when we did the Earth Day cleanup, I went ahead and took the initiative. There were a couple of trees that were already leaning over about a 45 over the trail on the backside, and I
yeah,
decided that I should probably go ahead and remove those. But I didn't want to get into, cutting trees, and I would like to do a hazard tree assessment and really decide if there are any trees that we really think for safety should be removed immediately.
right,
The rest of them, like I said, they're getting to that older age. That doesn't mean that they need to come down tomorrow.
yeah, some of them just kinda, it would be like, they're getting top
Right.
heavy. Yeah,
Yes,
so you kinda
very
just
much.
cut the tops off and kinda leave the rest of it for the bank stability or
One
something,
of the,
yeah, or the
one of the
branches.
things we can do that might be quite effective is just to try to kill the ivy that is climbing up them. And that actually can be a fairly simple thing to do. It's really hard to get all of the old material out, but if you cut the stem of that ivy and you give it you take about a 6-foot chunk out of it and then treat the stem on the ground with herbicide, you can be pretty effective at killing that stuff, and that would stop it from spreading. It could give those trees, I'm making numbers up here, 10 more years. What I think would be effective is if we could get some conifers started in the understory now, so that when those trees do hit that point where they're really starting to rot and really becoming a hazard, we can remove them and we already have the next crop grown. Because of course, it takes time to grow a tree. It takes time for a tree to mature, so.
We've been very fortunate. We have a private donor that donates money to the Friends of Highland Park and Parks of Cosmopolis. And Moni, as I said, she oversees that and the Adoption in the Park and our flower program here. And we've had some tree removal in that park, ones that have blown down and ones that were assessed like this is gonna come down, and one that was leaning over a trail. So, but as you know, limited funds, and so we've been fortunate in that sense, so being able to, because there are still some that have to come out. Several.
Patrick, how many students are in your core group of students?
We're a small program, so numbers fluctuate quarter to quarter. Right now, it's 7. On average, it's about 10 on average. I got 7 right now. Last fall, I had 15, so.
And then what's the preferred conifers that you'd like to see in there?
That's a great question. I think what would probably do the best, given how vegetated it is already, Douglas fir does not like to grow in shaded areas here. It's fairly shade intolerant. So I would be thinking more about red cedar, Sitka spruce, and western hemlock. Those would be the 3 native conifers that do really well in shaded conditions. And the cedar in particular is a very long-lived tree. There's actually some wonderful cedar and a couple of large spruce that are already in the park. So these are trees that are already present. But those would probably be what would do the best, because they can do well in that shaded understory for a while, and then eventually as those alders fade out and we remove them or allow them to fall, depending on where they are, they'll be ready to take over. They are slow growing though. It's gonna take time.
2 things. The alder problem, we've dealt with it, a place upsets up in, the trees are at that 80-year age, and we lost 4 of them this last year. And they look good to people that walk by.
Right.
Their root problem is where they disease in the roots and they get soft in the ground, and then when you start seeing big limbs falling around them, then you know that they're dying. Those need to, I agree, be taken down before they do come down. Because even without any foliage, enough of a wind and the ivy and stuff that grows in them can take them down. And you that have been here more than the 30 years I have, 5th Street, is that still continue on up to the Cooney Mansion where the tennis courts is still classified as 5th? Okay, up 5th Street, across from the tennis courts, there's a line of conifers there that are just choked with that ivy on there. And I don't know if it was your group or one has made the cut on one of them and it has died part of the way up the tree, that ivy has. Is that still park property, or is it only on the south side?
Part of it's school property and part of it's Cooney Mansion.
Okay,
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's.
Oh,
what
on
it
the
is.
other side of the street.
Yes.
And to be clear, on the maps here, what we used, this red outline, that is what, this is from the county's GIS parcels layer. Those layers are approximate.
Right.
They're not actually field truth with the GPS. So I would say that boundary is pretty good, but it's not perfect.
I think Steve might point that, I think it might be school property,
Yeah,
because
you
it's
can
right
see
on
the
that
back of the school
backside.
back
It is, it was kind of it's been disputed for years, kind of one of those things like, it's kind
Imagine
of,
that.
so between the golf course, there's golf course property in there also, so it kind of wraps around the Cooney Mansion, so it's probably 3 different owners possibly.
Yeah, because those, boy, they are just covered, and nothing's been done with them, and they are just getting choked real bad. And I think 2 of them are cedar, maybe one's a spruce that are there, they're beautiful trees, but anyway, I agree that the alder are something that we really should put a move, and like you say, go out and investigate, person such as you, knowing which ones are closest to coming down, and if they are in a place that they could fall on our fences or people that are in the park, because they can come down at any time.
With the question of where exactly the property line is there, legally speaking, that's something that would probably have to be determined by a surveyor. I mean, I don't think there's any existing markings back there.
Right, and
so
we-
that could be one option. The other thing that just comes to mind here, though, is that, invasive plants are not, they're not a problem that's exclusive to a single property owner, right? The problems that Mill Creek has, particularly with the ivy, your neighbors have as well. And so another, thing we could consider would be to try to get those neighboring landowners on board with some of that treatment. One of the things that can be really challenging in invasive species management is that you can do everything right, but if your neighbor is not treating their plants, they're just gonna keep coming back over from that neighboring property. So that might be a conversation that's worth having.
The grass that you were saying had grown since the pond was gone, and now that we flooded it, will the flooding of that take care of that grass? If it
If-
stays,
Yes, if we can keep it fully submerged for long enough. However, I think that canary grass has worked its way pretty far into the back of Mill Creek.
Oh.
And so at any time, if that water level drops, it's gonna come back in. And it's a really difficult one to deal with. There aren't a lot of great treatment options for it. In fact, one of the most effective ways to get rid of reed canary grass is to go in with an excavator and remove all of the soil.
oh my goodness.
And get all of the roots out, but that's serious excavation work to do that. So that's not really usually the desired solution. But for now, as long as we can keep the water levels up, that's one of the most effective things we can do. Reed canary grass is a riparian invasive, and it's only really mostly found in wet areas. And what it does is it just outcompetes everything else around it, and it forms these incredibly dense thatches. And then it dies, and then the next year it grows on top of that, and very quickly it can build a foot or 2 feet of essentially organic soil from its own mass, choke everything else out. It doesn't have a deep root system, and so as water systems run through that, they incise and erode. And what very quickly happens is a stream channel becomes confined, it has nowhere to meander, and it just drops and incises down into the soil. Our concern with it being there at all is that it could potentially choke the entire pond out. So hopefully, keeping the water level up, we'll treat that, but, in the middle of the summer, we're looking at a potentially dry year here. There's only so much water in the system. So,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty dry last year. We really monitored it. Sue is also part of our dam monitoring. She went through the training with our public works, and wouldn't you say we did a really good job keeping the pond pretty full?
And that one area you have.
But it will be a challenge.
Yeah, in the one area there, you said that the alders, the dam got HER, whatever, they said that whole area, that little patch there needs to be, they made comments about the vegetation that was there that needs to go because it's not doing any good. But there's also, it's a hillside, so we also have to be aware of the erosion problem that can happen if you
yes,
take too much out and don't replace it with something, that could root bound it, keep
Yeah.
the hill from going anywhere. Cause it's a significant hill that goes up to the tennis courts there, it has a pretty good climb there, so but now would you be getting your seedlings, are you doing seedlings like from Weyerhaeuser Nursery out of Rochester, or do you have some other,
there's a couple of different ways we could accomplish planting. The simplest thing, would be to buy them from
Right.
Weyerhaeuser or the DNR or,
Right.
and a forest nursery like that is gonna be far more cost effective than any landscape
Right.
nursery, you know?
Oh, yeah, right,
A
yeah.
landscape nursery will sell you a 7-year-old cedar tree for $200. I can get one for about $2
Right.
in a bare root seedling, 2 years old from Weyerhaeuser, so.
So Patrick, the group that we had out there last year, I'm trying to recall, and we did do a planting, I don't recall it being on Earth Day, but we did
Okay.
a lot of plantings, and we did do it down by the culvert area, and that, some of them were still there, some of them aren't. We did, I think a lot of it, as we were cleaning, was like, why is this here? Because it was just random planting with no focus, but, I can't recall the name of the group that brought that and provided those,
Was it the Grace Harbor Stream Team?
it was.
Okay,
It
that would just be my first guess.
And I think they would be a really good resource for getting those materials.
There are some smaller nurseries in the area that we could talk to and see if they might be willing to donate some plants. Again, Mill Creek is not a huge park, we're not talking about a massive number of seedlings.
Exactly,
Potentially, and I'd have to talk to my colleague about this, we could grow them ourselves. We have a greenhouse that our forestry program utilizes, and we grow our own seedlings every year. We grow about 2,000 Doug fir trees. We've never grown cedar or hemlock before, but we do grow spruce. So we've just been doing that at a relatively small scale to fill our planting needs. We manage the forest out of the Sats Business Park. Potentially, we could grow a crop of trees specifically for planting at Mill Creek. That would be, like at least a year or probably more like a 2-year planning timeline to get those to a point where they're ready to go in the ground. And I would say with a park planting, a little bit of a larger tree, a little bit of an older tree would be a better tree to put in. We're planting 1-year-old Doug fir when we plant them out at our school forest because we're putting 2,000, 3,000 trees in the ground, and frankly, if 10% of them die, that's okay. But when we're planting trees like that in a park, we kind of want all of them to survive.
Right.
A tree in a park is more valuable than a tree in a managed forest land. Because when we manage forests industrially, frankly, individual trees don't matter. They just don't. But that one special tree in a park can be really, really valuable. Because it's irreplaceable, or not irreplaceable, but it takes a long time.
Is there a source for more mature trees, 7, 8, 10-year-old trees?
The only source I can think of will be a landscape nursery. And that can get expensive real quick. We could potentially talk to, what are they called? I think it's just the Satsup Nursery. Friends of the program. So we could potentially talk to them and see if they might have anything that would be suitable, and see if we could.
What have you had here the longest?
Yeah. Sometimes a nursery has, a tree that's been there for 10 years and hasn't been sold, and they're kind of looking to get rid of it. So that's
I drive all around the state, and I go to wholesalers and retailers. And so, if there's a particular like specimen type of tree we're wanting to source, there's a good chance I could find something.
okay.
So this is Councilman Nguyen on speaker tonight.
We're familiar. We work together.
That's right, your colleagues, so.
Yes. Jeremy's the guy I complain to when my online classrooms aren't working the way I want them to. No, Jeremy's wonderful to work with, and I think I have Jeremy to thank for putting you in touch with me in the first place.
You're right.
I would
Thank you,
guess.
Jeremy. Yeah, it's been a great partnership, and I can't say enough about all the help you've had. We spent, after you were finished there, as Marty can testify to, many days out there, lots of days working, cleaning. You were taking care of, what are they,
All those horsetail fern or what do you call those, horsetail fern thing, they just look like asparagus coming up or something. God, the park was just
Fiddle.
packed with it.
Well,
Hmm.
I would actually leave those alone.
Ferns are
They're-
good.
They're,
Maybe we need a
can-
course
well,
on what to keep.
it depends, they can really outcompete everything else around them, especially in those riparian areas. So there are times when it's appropriate to kind of keep them back, but I wouldn't be worried about removing them entirely, because they are native, and can be quite useful as well. They're an excellent scouring pad.
So how are we gonna get the alder trees that are close to buildings and fences out of there?
Great question. Depending on the tree, a lot of them can probably just be safely hand fallen with a chainsaw, as long as
There's
they're
a lot of
not
them that
bleeding.
can't. There's a lot of them that can't.
Yeah, but you're right, there's quite a few that are leaning in the wrong direction. If you hire an arborist, you will pay somewhere between $500 to $1,000 per tree, and they'll probably take them out with either a boom lift or a crane. They can't climb trees like that, and honestly, most arborists are moving away from climbing as a standard practice. So obviously now we're talking about some significant cost. There isn't really a better way to take them out. We don't want to try to put ropes on a tree that's starting to rot and pull on it while someone is cutting with a chainsaw. Not safe. That's not a good idea. So that's why I think we need to have a more detailed hazard tree assessment done.
Well, those alder trees are a pain in the ass.
Oh, yeah.
There was a pile of leaves around the tennis court that was that deep that they had to clean up.
You're right.
Yeah.
They're,
Yep, they're,
the limbs
Yeah.
are rotten,
Yep.
falling down.
yeah.
You know, and each year, as I said, there's been a generous donor to the Friends of Highland Park, and they've applied that to trees up there, but it only goes so far, so,
And Mother
There's
Nature has
probably
taken
at
care of
least
you.
2 dozen
yeah.
Oh,
in that category.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
I would agree. Something like 2 dozen or
Yeah.
so that are
yeah.
So
really need to be
there's-
removed.
The city doesn't have a bucket truck or.
No, we don't, we actually, we never had one, we get our bucket truck, when we talk about partnerships we develop, we actually have, Five Star has a bucket truck that they let us use to do lighting or anything like that, and they've been very generous, as I said, with our volunteers and partnerships like yours and Five Star with the bucket truck and everything, but I don't know if that would be the type of bucket
No,
truck.
that one doesn't
That,
go.
we're talking,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
we're
not
talking,
very tall.
yeah,
We're
we're
talking
talking,
more like a minimum of like a 50-foot.
You need like,
Yeah.
you need like the fire
Yeah.
truck ladder up.
yeah,
You know, or a big boom truck with a
Yeah.
basket,
Yeah.
man basket.
yeah, so we really don't have,
Possibly a small crane.
yeah,
So you can,
Right.
what's nice about a crane, if you have a solid tree, is you can hook onto it, you can lift the tree, you can cut it at the stump, and you can gently lay it down in one piece. If you use a boom lift, you still gotta chunk it down in pieces, and that can be done.
We
So,
know
yeah,
what the,
Roglins or,
tree
I know
removals.
East County Rentals has a boom lift that's
Oh, yeah,
about
they do.
50 feet
They got
tall or
big
so.
ones.
so I think once you do
Gotta
the
find somebody to do
assessment, then we'll kind of really kind of prioritize that list. I'm sure the council, I know myself, I want to say thank you, this is exciting as we continue to move forward. We made a huge dent in that park last year, and that's going to happen again this year. We do need to kind of, do you want to talk about Earth Day?
Yeah, let's
real
talk about that
quickly?
real quick. So, Earth Day this year, as every year, April 22nd, which is, I think, let me double check, I believe it's a Wednesday.
Oh, good.
It is a Wednesday.
yes.
unfortunately, the Noxious Weeds Board is already committed to another Earth Day event
Right.
this year. But I have my program committed. That's going to be a class day for my students. So they're going to be there whether they want to or not.
And the city will be there and our volunteers will be there.
Yeah, and I believe the stream team already has an Earth Day event as well, but I'll double check on that. If they don't, I'm gonna see if they might be interested in joining us. And I've invited, I've sent out an invitation to our general student life on campus, just to see if there's any other students at Grace Harbor that might be interested in joining us. Kind of the rough plan for Earth Day this year is my students and I will be there at 8 a.m. and we're just going to go straight into attacking blackberry, and we want to cut as much of it as we can. What we could really use help with, and this is where some community volunteers would be wonderful, is getting all that stuff and transporting it. So what we did last year, and this worked fairly well, is we just got big, lawn bags, and we just cut that stuff up as best we could to a size that was manageable, stuffed it in those bags, and then we can just pick up that whole bag, throw it in the gator or in a hand cart, and then I think you said the city dump truck will be available
The
that
city
day?
dump truck, and then we're working with LeMay. They took all of it. My kids had another great
Fantastic.
partnership, that we took all that stuff and had it dumped, and so that worked out really well.
So, if we filled that 10-yard dump truck, that would be quite a bit of material. I think that would be a great accomplishment.
Okay.
Wouldn't wanna look at chipping it?
I don't know about chipping that kind of material. Generally, with a lot of invasive plants, we don't really like to chip them and then mulch them because blackberry is not as bad with this. I think if you were to mulch that, it probably would be okay, but if you did that with knotweed,
Knotweed.
there is no better way to spread knotweed than chop it up.
Yeah, probably just, since we have the opportunity to move it, get it out of the park.
Yeah, so I think the best thing would be to chop it up, bag it, take it to LeMay.
Where is this gonna happen?
Where, in
Earth
the
Day?
park?
In the park, are we talking about in the park?
Yes, yeah, sorry, so where the blackberry is particularly bad is on, all of the hillsides. Particularly the hillside directly underneath the tennis court, and then directly opposite that, on the other side of the dam. If you walk straight across the dam, there's you may not know it's there, but there's a retaining wall built with
Yep.
large eco blocks.
It's got a lot of blackberries on it.
But you
Lot
did a
of
good job
blackberries.
last year.
We didn't know it was there until we started cutting the blackberries
I didn't know.
last year.
I'll tell you, sorry.
We started cutting those blackberries and my students went, hey, there's a retaining wall in here. So, those would kind of be my two priority areas. So focusing mainly on blackberry and more ivy control is what I'm really thinking of this year. I don't know of any trees that have fallen down over the winter. I know last year there were several trees that had fallen down during winter storms that we cleaned up as well.
We had some taken down and some removed, but there's still some in the park.
Okay,
And Patrick, we do have to wrap it up
Yes.
again. Thank you. I appreciate you coming in.
thank you.
Thank you very much for all your help, Patrick.
Okay. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Okay. We have a few minutes before we move into the council meeting.
Fire department.
Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay. I'd like everyone, Councilman Skinner, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure, where the heck's it at?
Right here.
There it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mayor Springer, it is Wednesday, March 18th, and it's 7 o'clock, and I call the council meeting to order. Clerk Vineyard, would you please do roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Do we have a Councilmember Skinner?
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen? Councilmember Nguyen?
He was with her folks.
Because he talked before, he's up.
I'm present.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman, Member Nguyen, could you please turn your camera on? Thank you.
Not at the
Councilman-
moment.
Councilmember Sparko?
Here.
Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Darcy?
Here,
All right, moving on. So, no. Here we are. So approval of agenda, before we move forward with the approval of the agenda tonight, are there any modifications?
Mayor Springer, there are a couple modification requests. At this time, we would like to remove all of the action items that were listed for further discussion. Number one, the vote to approve the comprehensive plan. This needs to be brought back as a public hearing before we can move forward with the request for approval. The approval for the mayor recommendations will come back at another meeting. And the vote to approve the council processes will come back at the future meeting.
I have a question about the council processes. I mean, I can see doing a discussion, but I'm not seeing a need to vote on it particularly, since it seems to be an administrative item. So are we completely just removing it? Is that what we're doing?
I will have some discussion,
Oh.
but we are not voting on it this evening.
Yeah, that's what I figured. We didn't really, okay.
So all those in favor? Is there a
I make a
motion?
motion to accept the agenda as reported.
Council Darcy will second that.
Is there any discussion?
So will the discussion portion on those still stay intact this evening?
They will stay intact as part of just a discussion.
Good.
All those,
Yeah, we already.
okay.
Oh, no.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Council Darcy seconds that.
Is there any discussion?
On the consent agenda, the verbiage actually is about approval of EFTs, checks, vouchers, et cetera. And really it's more of a ratification because these things have already been paid, they've already been sent. And I don't know how we're gonna get out of that loop of, basically, a consent agenda should include vouchers and claims that are presented to the council to be approved to be paid, not simply bills that have already been paid. And that's really the oversight and the transparency for the council is to approve that money before it's actually sent out. So it's gonna take a little bit of work to be able to get that done.
I would actually like to ask Chris Coker if he could
Speak to that.
give some input on that, as I've always seen consent agenda items called out as consent agenda items.
So, yeah, the issue, I think the issue is that we're sort of, as these ratification versus approval. Well, these things are all things that are in the budget. So it's within my understanding of this, and I might need to double check this a little bit though, is obviously the city has items that are budgeted throughout the entire year. All of these items would have been, are budgeted items. They would be normal within the budget. If we have to amend the budget, then we have an ordinance that we then do that with. But my understanding is with payroll, standard payment issues, that if they are within the budget, they've already technically been kind of approved or established because the budget's been approved for 2026. So if they're within that budget, they're kind of already been approved. This is sort of confirming when the monies are getting spent.
And I would agree with that. The issue is that they're to be audited before they're paid. And this, it's not audited by, the majority of the council doesn't have the option to oversee any of that. When you have a two-council meeting,
Right.
one
Well,
council.
it's not a meeting, if it's two council persons at a,
I'm talking
like,
about
finance
two
committee.
specific council meetings.
Uh-huh.
So council meetings, usually the first council meeting of the month, you would approve those things before they are paid. Typically, is the way it used to work. And they were stacked up, person would come in, review them. And so the first council meeting of the month would basically take care of the bills. The second council meeting would do any catch up, but that's the way it used to work. With one council meeting a month, we're into this, we're actually ratifying bills from last month, is what we're doing.
Right, so I don't know how it used to be done. I can look at what other cities do, see if it's different in that sense. But I mean, you know, obviously, well, I get what you're saying. I mean, I understand the concern. Obviously, the day-to-day bill paying is really the role of the clerk treasurer.
Agree.
You know, the council has and again, from a governance point of view, you know, the council has approved a budget for the city. And then there is some responsibility that then gets handed over to the department heads to administer that budget. And so long as that budget's administered correctly, I think we're okay, but I understand that your question is different. Your question is, we should have like if I get bills throughout, and bills come in throughout the month. So it'd probably be impossible to have them all lined up if we had two meetings, assuming we had two meetings. Let's say we had a meeting the first day of the week, is it Wednesday? First Wednesday of the month and the last Wednesday. Well, we would have, I don't know if we would ever get caught up because we may be behind the following. If we get a bill on the Thursday after the second meeting, it may not get approved, whatever the timing would be. But I can look at that and see if that's, I can look and see what other cities do to remedy that.
Well, and as I recall past meetings, I mean, past financial director would basically do the same thing. There was nobody, even a council person saying that they went in and looked at the, the reports at all. They would just, she would sit there,
Yeah.
she would say, this is what our tally was for the month, and that was it. So there was no, like, anything more than that, as I recall from past meetings of the previous.
My previous experience was exactly that and there's other council members, but they were audited before they're paid. It's a transparency and a review issue more than anything.
So all of the invoices are reviewed and approved by multiple people, the internal process in-house, before their payments are issued. And any expenditures that do exceed or outside of the already approved budget, as Coker mentioned, those do go out to council, whether it's through a request for purchasing, request for approval on additional expenditures, again, that weren't previously approved or need to be included in a budget amendment.
Okay, any other discussion or comments, council? Okay, we are going to then,
We have to vote on the consent agenda.
oh,
We had discussion, now it's time to
Thank
vote
you.
on.
so all those in favor of accepting the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. The motion passes. At this time, council comments. Are there any council comments at this time? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move on to committee reports. Auditing and Finance Committee.
So, a couple of
Okay.
things. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, did you want to go
Oh,
first?
no, no,
Okay.
you, go for it.
Okay, so we're just moving swiftly through things. We're doing a lot of cleanup, a lot of catch-up, a lot of, unfolding, unwinding, discovering, correcting. Just some highlights. I will recap the total claims and vouchers for the month of February, $143,868.59, as well as payroll claims for the month of February in the amount of $28,015.48. There was a notable $20,500 that there was an exchange, a transfer of the sale of the 3 police vehicles that did end up getting moved over to Aberdeen within the last couple of weeks since the last council meeting. We were able to take that money, and it wasn't an exchange of money. It was a relief of $20,500 towards our police enforcement bill to the department for the month of April. We are showing approximately $8,000 for the month of March so far, billed out in permit fees that will be contributed, to the general fund when that money comes in. We also had, Casey, can you confirm, I believe it was approximately $10,000 that we're getting back from the insurance company for the removal of the police vehicles for our auto liability.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Between all of the vehicles that we're taking off, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that too will go back into the general fund. We're working really closely still with the CPA, Tara Dunford, to bring the reconciliations current so that when we meet again with the Finance Committee, we will have accurate and up-to-date financial reports. And that's really what I've got for you folks this evening.
Okay, Parks Committee.
We rescheduled our meeting for next week, so I'll have a follow-up with notes next meeting.
Thank you. Public Safety Meeting.
Councilman Davis has stepped forward and is taking notes for the safety meeting, and so I would like him to report on our public safety meeting.
Basically, the bulk of the discussion will be held with the chief's reports, both the fire chiefs and the police chief's report. There was a brief discussion about traffic safety or traffic calming, and maybe more of an educational aspect of things. Definitely something the community hopefully would get involved in. The Community Cares Group has been waiting on establishing where they're gonna put their signs and things up, and they hope that once that's happened, that it will provide more of an interest for people in their community to be able to be involved in that group. They were still looking for people on both hills to be volunteer leaders in that group. And that's really the bulk of the public safety meeting.
Okay, moving on to Public Works.
You want me to take?
You go for it.
Okay, yeah, so we had our meeting the other day, we've actually streamlined, so it makes it easy for Donnie to have an actual checkoff list and everything, so it's kind of a little easier for him to keep track of things. So obviously, weather permitting, we do realize that the trees on Second Street will be getting addressed. They all need to be trimmed and some few dead ones and all that situation, so those will be getting looked at. We have, the snowflakes will be getting taken out, and then the flags will be coming up. We have a few that need to be replaced that got blown all over in the last couple windstorms we had, so we'll be working with the VFW to figure out how to get those replaced. We did retrieve them, but they got literally blown off the poles. So we'll be working with Five Star again to get the lift for that and to help. And then we have the backhoe is back from the college, repaired. There is, let's see, what else was there? I think that was pretty much it. It was mostly Donnie going over, completing his safety training. There's certain deals on that. Councilman Spargo is walking through the playground with the playground equipment at the Lions Club. There's caution tape, on the slide. That seems to be holding up for now, and they're looking at grants to get all that replaced and everything, yeah. And I believe that's it for this week.
Thank you. So we're gonna move on to Aberdeen Police Chief Report, Chief Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Commander Timmons was at the public safety meeting yesterday, and so I'm here tonight to let you know what's going on with us here in Cosmopolis in the last month. Our call stats included in your packet, kind of gives you an idea what's going on. Average calls per day in February, 1.46 per day, which is down from 1.77 in January. Just to give you perspective, in Aberdeen, we're at 79.5 a day. So quite a bit quieter here, fortunately. And we're trending about the same direction right now in January as we did in March, through 18 days, about 1.72 calls a day. I know you mentioned Mr. Davis last night, talking about some speed stuff and concerns about speeding vehicles in Macarenco. So we're going to work with Donnie, Commander Timmons and I will try to, we have another radar sign that we might be able to put up there and see if that'll help, at least temporarily. Again, we talked about this last meeting, we want to give them a couple weeks, or a couple months to kind of get an idea of perspective on the speed stuff. And, they're kind of mobile signs, like, they require concrete and all the other normal sign things, so our street department and our sign department will come help them too, so we'll kind of get an idea what that looks like too, because I know there's a couple ways to get up to the park, and maybe you all can give us some guidance where you think the bigger problem might be. Our volunteers are out driving around. They did 207 hours last month between Aberdeen and Cosmopolis. I think your community is part of their regular route when they come out every night when they're out, so hopefully you see them out cruising around. We're still in the process of hiring. We have one police vacancy position and a couple police services officer positions. Those are our corrections officers that help us out in the jail. And then lastly, the mayor had forwarded me a concern from a citizen earlier this month about people or kids driving e-bikes, young adults, I guess, but I should label them as kids. So I just want to let everybody know too, there's 3 different sizes of e-bikes in the state by the state law. You're required to wear a helmet at all times when you're riding a bike, regardless of which class of e-bike you are on. And the e-bikes, the first 2 classes, the smaller size, they all have to be under 750 watts, can be driven on the road or on the sidewalk. So the bigger ones have to stay on the roadway. So I know I talked to the mayor before previously, if we think we have some issues with them up in the park areas, maybe potentially we could change some of the city codes as far as what's allowed at the park and have some better signage too. And then we certainly encourage people to call us if they see things happening, because it's really important for us to catch them in the act, so we can at least identify who the kids are. If they're under 15, then any ticket that would be issued would go to the parent. So if they're 16 and over, they could get the traffic infraction themselves. But our big thing is education and just letting the kids know too that we want them to be safe. Commander Timmons is working on a Facebook post that'll have all this information that we can send out to the city too.
Thank you. Tonight, our Fire Chief Kokel is excused. He's asked that Council Member Skinner present his report.
As of 3/18, they had calls of service, total of 63 for service so far in 2026. Since the last report, they had 29 calls for service. Below is the breakdown of the type per call. I don't know if the regular packets have this sheet in it, because I don't know these acronyms any better than probably most anybody else does here. I guess that's an aid response 12, medical response 5, lift 6, false alarm would be F alarm?
Fire alarm.
Fire alarm. Look at me trying to be negative. 1 and a fire 1. Got that one?
Fire structure.
Fire and a structure. We had 2 of those, 2 deaths for a total of 29, not deaths, just calls. And just a reminder, if citizens have not done so already, it is best practice to change smoke detector batteries every 6 months. Easy time frame to remember for battery change out is at the time change for spring forward and fall back. Cosmopolis Fire Department can assist in the changing of the batteries for citizens in Cosmopolis. To set up a time, would you please submit a request through City Hall or email cosifire@cosmopoliswa.gov. Respectfully, Jacob Corker, Fire Chief.
Thank you. So moving on to the mayor's report, I do not have a report tonight. What I am going to do tonight is, I am presenting the mayor's plaque. Going into the third year, we've had lots of changes, lots of challenges, but I keep thinking we're getting over that hump, and then there's just a smaller one ahead of us. But I look at the people that truly make a difference in this community, the volunteerism, how they step up. When we moved into the new building over there, my dream for this was to give back to citizens, this community center. But I have a lot on my plate. And I had this citizen that I've seen but really had very little communication with, and it was Kay Bramstead, Kay Marcella Bramstead, known as Kay, the letter K. And I was spelling it out, but she was so polite, she didn't even tell me that. And she introduced herself and said, I would like to do a senior luncheon here every Tuesday. And even the first Tuesday she had planned to do it, I recall that, she was unable to do it, and she was in a fret about it. Her daughter called me and said, Mom doesn't want you to do it, she wants to do it. And we'd already put it out there, and I said, I'm going to do it. She has not missed one Tuesday since that day, and she makes 2 delicious soups, 50 plus, but if you come in here and want a bowl of soup, she will welcome you in. We have other volunteers that help with desserts, but she does usually the bread and the soups, the coffee and the juice, and she does a lot of things. And so I asked her to give me a list of what she does. I keep you here probably for 30 minutes, and I know how much you enjoy being at a council meeting. So I tried to just shorten it. So I just want to read some of the things that this incredible person has done in her years of service, her lifetime of service to this point. 43 years of service with the Aberdeen Food Bank as a volunteer, serving in several leadership roles throughout her time from 1980 to 2023. When we had the homeless camp on the Chehalis River, she provided her homemade soup for that encampment on Sundays. Currently, she serves on the Coastal Harvest Board, overseeing 5 counties of food bank and feeding programs. She is a pastor at the Willapa Methodist Church. With all that, she provides soups every Tuesday of the month. Well, back to that, as I talked about, she also does, and some of this got left out of here. It got left out, so I apologize. There was so much more. She works down in the Pacific County do you want to speak a little bit about what you do in Pacific County?
In Pacific County, we coordinate with the Pacific County Immigration Support Group, also network, and also the Crisis Support Network. And we also house people, like when they're heading to a new job and don't have the money yet to do it. And we help people with rent assistance and whatnot. And we do a big back-to-school clothing event just before school starts with new and gently used clothes for those who may not be able to afford getting ready for school. Those are a few of the things that we do. And the one thing I did leave off of the list, our family for quite a few years, and I can't tell you, Steve, I don't know when your mom quit doing the holiday baskets, but we started when Gary Eisenhower and Pat Davis quit doing the holiday baskets, and we do Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday baskets, and then also through the school and the community, and then they also do gifts that go with the Christmas ones as well.
So I want to commend you. My career has been in service, but nothing like yours, and it speaks so much of your character and your commitment to make a difference in people's lives. So tonight, if you'll come up here. I'd like to present you this plaque. May I have it? Thank you. You're welcome. So the other person that I want to recognize tonight, and because we have so many really outstanding citizens, I think Sue was up, Kay was at the top of the list. The other person that I'm going to recognize is actually one of our council members and a citizen. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about this person. She serves Sue Darcy. She didn't know this was coming. So she served both on the Public Works and Finance Committee with dedication, thoughtful review, and strong sense of responsibility. When we were talking about vouchers and everything and, you know, holding us accountable, she is in here going through everything as a finance representative for each and every one of you. She thoroughly checks it. Anything questionable, she brings it to us. She goes over and above as a council member. Watching what Kay did, she also recognized, especially with the cost of food these days, the need in our community, she, on her own, decided to put in a food bank here within City Hall, right in that room. She established it, she shops, she goes out to Pacific Beach probably once a week to gather food. She just ensures that people have access to food, and she's down here more than a couple days a week, checking, stocking, doing things. And she has even driven to citizens' houses. You know, at Christmas, she's like, I just don't see this going on. I just, you know, we'll probably stop. I don't think she has a choice now, because people will make donations or she'll continue it. So it's something that is really helping to serve the citizens of Cosmopolis, because our community didn't have anything like this. So we have two amazing citizens that are providing for our community and for citizens that need that help, that support, and that nourishment. And I want to say thank you very much. And I'd like to present you, on behalf of the mayor and the city of Cosmopolis, this.
Mayor, if you stand over here by the owl, then we can see it on the camera, so.
Oh, okay. Should we dance? Let's just go over
There you go, right there.
Thank you.
That's good.
You're welcome. So the only other announcement, I know my reports are usually long-winded, so you're going to be happy tonight it isn't. The only other one is that on March 23rd, it's a Monday, we are going to be closed, the City Hall will be closed from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. for staff training. You know, very fortunate to have Jamie on board, a clerk treasurer with a solid background in municipalities. So she's really tightening things up and getting us on board and teaching a lot of us. And so there are procedures and things that we are learning, and so we will have occasional training days. So we will be open in the morning, we'll be open in the afternoon, and the drop box is available. And so we'll move on to new business at this time. Jamie?
Yeah, so this is going to be just a discussion item, no action taken tonight, and this is for what we had previously mentioned during the modification. This is on the city comp plan, again, and what we have discovered is that 5 or 6 years ago, when the original comp plan document was pulled together, it was never formally adopted because the public hearing was canceled and it did not take place. And that is officially required in order to adopt that comp plan. So if we can make it happen quickly enough, we will bring it back in April as a public hearing. If not, it will look for it on the May agenda, but between April and May, that will come back as a public hearing and then for adoption of the comp plan so we can progressively keep it moving forward. Vicki Cummings was scheduled to be here with us tonight to kind of go over some of those things in the comp plan, questions, discussions, and coincidentally, she was unable to attend tonight anyways, as she's at home not feeling well. So Vicki, we hope you're feeling better. She will be back with us again when we bring that, when we bring the comp plan forward on the next meeting.
So next, on new business, we will not be voting on this, and
We're not going to have any discussion on the comp plan as a council?
not at this time because we have to, it will be presented at a
Town meeting.
public hearing.
So, yeah, I mean, the discussion, I mean, I guess there could be discussion around, I've been on the planning commission as an ex officio on there. Basically, what the process is that yes, we have to have the hearing. Now, what we will learn in that hearing is that even though the plan was not ratified, I guess for a better reason, word, it's not completed, but what Vicki has let us know is that we can accept it and then it gets worked on with the plan, it goes back to the planning commission, because what we need to do is get it accepted. We need to ratify it, vote on it, accept it as it is, as a working document is the definition of it right now. And so then, as soon as we can vote on it to accept it, and it goes back to the planning commission, and the planning commission takes it page by page and updates it, because there's a lot of things that say like Weyerhaeuser in it as opposed, or Montesano or what. So there's a lot of old lingo in it, and then update it for what they see as the future 10-year plan or whatever plan for it. That way we can start actually applying for grants once it gets completed. So that's kind of the short version of where it stands right now as a comprehensive plan, is that they have the working plan, we vote to accept it, it goes back, and then that way they can start working on it, and then in the meantime, since we have accepted it, if we do, then it can be starting to have grants can start being applied for with that. But if there's any other discussion, that's fine now.
Can we get a copy of the current draft sent out to all the council members at least?
Yeah, you should have an electronic one, Jamie attached in our email this week.
Oh,
It's like
right.
80 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's long, yeah, but it was attached in your email, yeah.
So the attachment that we did receive was, I'm guessing somewhere around, it was pre-2010.
Yeah, it's like 20 years old.
And we did have a comprehensive plan that was done along and with the brownfield, it's on our city website.
Yeah,
and
that is,
it's 2020.
yeah, that one was the, not the comprehensive plan.
Right.
That's the other one. That's
Okay.
the, I can't think of the name of it now, but yes, it's around all the brownfields and everything.
It is,
yeah.
but it basically has a lot of the same information the
Yeah,
comprehensive
but
plan
they're two
would.
different ones, yeah.
Okay, I understand. So the previous one is from pre-2010. I say that because it's before Cosmos Specialty Fibers
Correct.
purchased the mill. I think we did one in 2006.
Well, that's what I said. The one that we have now is actually 20 years old, which would make it like,
2000.
I'm sorry,
2000,
I think
yeah.
we did one in 2020. And it would have been turned into the Department of Commerce back then. So, I mean, I'm not debating the fact that it probably wasn't ever
it didn't get
finished
voted on.
and voted on.
Right.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
That probably didn't happen.
That's the
So-
problem, is that it didn't get voted on, so you can't go get grants around anything around within your comprehensive plan, because you don't have, every city needs to have one.
Correct.
Right,
So, and we know that the that the planning commission had been working on a draft. And my point, I guess, is rather than pick up in pre-2006 or wherever that was, we have a more current copy that the planning commission has been working on. Wouldn't it make sense to use what they've gotten done so far and adopt that plan?
That's a plan, if I may speak, because so I have two roles, mayor and acting city administrator. So I do sit on that committee, and so I'll speak as the acting city administrator on the planning commission. So that is a plan that we are working on. Vicki Cummings from Grace Harbor Council of Government works with all municipalities. She works closely on the comprehensive plan. She had looked at ours, a lot of it is out of date, but she said the cost of it would be extreme. We are a partial planning city. So what we have to do, and it has to be completed by the end of 2027. And so the committee has been working on that plan. She came in and spoke in great detail. It's been a process for all of us on the planning committee, learning and working through this. And so we are not, the plan we're working on is the one we will be working on. And adopting it, it will then be a live document. And what she did say, and Chris may speak to this, that it is a live document, and we will continue every year to update it. We're gonna, as things change. And so with that said, I think when she comes in and she speaks, we'll have a town hall meeting so people thoroughly understand. And as the planning commission, and Mr. John, you've been very involved in it and part of it, and it's been a bit of a challenge, but I think we're headed in a good direction, and that we're really getting kind of our feet on the ground, moving it forward in the best interest of the city. And as Council Member Darcy said, once we get areas, it doesn't have to be completely done. Like if we finish, right now, I applied for the PUG grant. We did get that PUG grant. I have to have it completed and into the Department of Commerce by June 1st, and that will define critical areas. So if there's certain grants that would apply, then we can apply for it. If it's street projects and we finish that, so we don't have to have the whole comprehensive plan done. There's portions of it that we get done. If there are grants that would be applicable to it, then we can apply. So we are working on that now.
Yeah, like we voted for our street plan last year, so the street plan can now be put into that. So each time we get our plans that we have, like the 6-year plan and whatever, the streams or whatever, then all that gets put into it, and then as we complete it and vote for it, then it can be added into it, so it is like a working,
Right, and a very important piece of that Council Member Skinner, he's on the stormwater comprehensive plan that I sat on too. And we have been working with DHR. There was a large grant between Aberdeen, Hoquiam, and Cosmopolis. Cindy Kiter has been working very closely with us. We just sat in on a presentation that it didn't cost the city anything, and it would have cost the city thousands. And so they will be sending us a completed stormwater piece that then, when we adopt that plan, we can put it right into that plan. So there are things that were identified. Councilman Skinner can speak to some of our floodgates, some of our culverts. Once that is done, and then they also are suggesting where we can look for grants. So to tell you the truth, I'm very excited about this. A lot of work has gone into this, and we're moving forward. Any other questions?
I guess that is my question. Why then are we using a document from pre-2010 when we have a more current draft?
As I said, the one that we're working on is the one that Cummings looked at, and the language. So let's talk about capital improvements. So this building here was a capital improvement, and you want, in the comprehensive plans, you want to look at language that focus is, we still owe money on this building. We were over budget on this building, over $400,000. Right now, we're sitting somewhere at 280. And so this gets a little involved. And so the language in this particular plan is very close to what we need to be able to update it and use that language. And then take it to the planning commission with a suggestion about moving REIT funds to pay for capital improvements. And they don't make the final decision. We don't make the final decision. It comes before council. We've got a ways to go. So I think right now, if you have more questions, why don't you set up an appointment with me and we'll go over it a little more, okay? Good. So we'll go ahead and at that time, any other conversation or questions from council? Okay, if not. Okay, so moving on. Tonight, the question was posed to me, and I'm going to stand up a little bit and speak to this, because I'm short and I'm just really behind this table. I've had many citizens reach out to me about concerns about traffic on Dundee and on Franklin. I kind of wanted to throw this out there. I've had a few council reach out to me and say, you know, Mayor, if you bring this up, this is all about you, because you live on that street and people are going to be talking. We all know, sitting in this room, how social media is. I have to tell you, this isn't about me. I don't put in 50, 60 hours a week here at City Hall because I'm worried about Dundee or Franklin. I do it because I care about the city. Every citizen, if you like me or not, I do it because I care about this city. When I have citizens that come to me and say, Mayor, I want you to bring this to council and to the council meeting tonight on our behalf. Normally, this would be stuff we would talk in either safety committee or parks or public works. But because this has been out there for the last 3 years, if not longer, about safety concerns, it's just, I believe, a matter of time that a child or someone's going to get injured. And we do have young kids that speed, but we also have adults up there. I'm down here probably 3/4 of the time I'm awake, but it's very obvious from the citizen complaint, the amount of traffic. There are no sidewalks on Dundee. There is no sidewalks on Franklin. There are cars. Right now it's slow, but the minute weather is nice, there are kids everywhere. There are families. And it's not just citizens at Cosmopolis. And so looking at that, and I had suggestions. What about speed bumps? I had it from a gentleman that lives right next to the park who actually has a sign in his yard. In summertime, I bought signs that put in my driveway out there. And so I researched, and I was going to ask for it to be an action item tonight to have the council. I put together costs, plans, everything, and the type of speed bumps that would work up there. And there's a lot more work that needs to go into this. And I was going to ask, but then I had other citizens reach out to me, I had council reach out to me. And the reason that I'm presenting it tonight, because I'm going to put it back to committees and say, you need to work on it, and here's a timeline. And this is what we need to address. That's why I'm speaking tonight on behalf of citizens. And so with that said, we all have different ideas about what would work up there. I was really pleased when Commander Timmons spoke at the safety meeting last night, because these signs the flashing signs have been effective. And I think 1 up there or 2 up there, those are good measures to look at. So in the council packet was information for speed bumps. But in the conversation this week, other things have come up that I think are good suggestions. I think a very important piece, I had a former councilman who called me and was very polite and just said, the speed limit is too fast. I agree 100%. Even dropping it down to 15, then someone said 15, that's too low. Well, we all know we push it. If it's 15, we're going 20. When you have the number of people that are in that park, and we're talking, has nothing to do because it's across the street from me. It has to do with that on a good day, you're gonna see 30, 40, 50 kids in that park running out between cars in the street with their bikes, everything else. Families pushing strollers with babies in them. It is a safety concern. And why is it close to my heart? When my daughter was in second grade, her best friend, who lives on Carr Street, not a real busy street, over in Hoquiam, stepped out between two cars, was hit by the car, traumatic head injury. My daughter's 42. She is functioning today at the age of 8. Accidents happen, not will it happen, but when. It's a matter of time. So as we talked, there have been suggestions about painted crosswalks, signs. I've already purchased signs that have put up, slow down, children playing. So those will be going up, but there's a lot of things. So I'm asking tonight, as I bring it before, Councilman Skinner is head of our public safety, so I'm going to task him. And because Justin sits on public works and sits on parks, for them to get together and read the research I did on the speed bumps, and then look at the other things that we have discussed tonight. And I don't want this to be another 2 years, another year. I would like to see that this is addressed. I'm going to ask that they get together, that they bring information back at the next council meeting, and that by the June 1st, that we have something in place that ensures safety for the citizen, people who visit that park, and for our children. So if there was a question about, I'm doing it because I live on that street, you know that's not the case. You know where my heart is when it comes to this community. And the safety of children is of utmost importance. So you've been tasked with this, gentlemen, and I've given a deadline because we're all busy, and without deadlines, things can slip by. So thank you. Any comments, council, at this time?
I will just say one thing, that being on the finance committee, I did my due diligence to look into the pricing of the speed bumps, just so we knew on the financial end of it, what that looked like. And so I put my comments into that at the finance committee meeting about, that when it is presented to the council, that we have more of a definitive what the cost is gonna be and what that looks like, and preferably not a range number. And so, that was my main thought process, was do we start with just maybe on the low end budget of signs and a crosswalk first, and then work our way up, because there are other, things around the city that need to be done around streets too, and the children, which is at the elementary school. The crosswalks are all getting very faded there. And so just to kind of look at a priority of what it is that we can afford and what our street fund has in it. It's not one of our beefier funds either, so to make sure that we don't dwindle it down, or that it's being cost effective and actually, working, because we all know speed bumps, we all find a way to go around them. There is another way to go around avoiding them, but so just let it know that the finance department, or the committee, had also looked over this too and discussed it. Yeah.
And I would also encourage you to reach out to the chief. He's probably had these kind of questions, he's probably dealt with it, and would have some history to assist you in making decisions, and maybe even resources that could help.
Go away.
Okay.
One of the issues we did talk about at the public safety meeting that makes sense is the educational aspect of it, and reporting, people in our community that aren't driving defensively or driving too fast in neighborhoods by actually filing a report or a complaint. traffic calming is something we're doing all over town. These new speed limit signs out here are working, they are effective. We're seeing some action. But if there is a violator or a few violators that happen to be going through an area too fast, regardless of where they are in the community, take the time as a citizen to report that so that the officers have data to be able to file, more effort.
Yeah, I think maybe as being in that community, that maybe, when the weather gets better, to have, like a community meeting with the families and the kids all there, to have a little education around the kids themselves about how they are approaching vehicles and weaving in and out of them, and their own bicycle safety. I know when I was a kid, we had bicycle safety courses, at school. So just to maybe have a setup, maybe if it's during some event up there, to invite, maybe Aberdeen Police up there to give a little safety deal to the kids themselves in the neighborhood, and maybe hit the different neighborhoods, even the school, not just necessarily Highland Park, there's kids all over.
Right.
So, yeah, it would be a good community thing too, to if maybe have it at the elementary school or something like that, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Just to go along with Councilman Davis, these signs, we've talked about them, and I enjoyed sitting over in the other place, the last meeting, and watching the sign. But they do record data. Chief told us that, they record data. So if one is placed in an area and they start seeing that there is an area, then they will concentrate their people. He said that in the past. We try to take care, we only have so many patrolmen for all of our city and Aberdeen's. We find areas that need patrol, then we start concentrating more in that area. Just what he said, reporting it. Don't just complain to the neighbor next door that kid's driving by fast, or that those kids are going down the middle of the street. Turn in that non-emergency report. That gives them then data to be able to go and say, yep, it's a place we've got to look at. We've seen more activity there, so we better start doing a little more emphasis on patrol in that area. I think we'll find that here on the highway. Once they're able to start gathering data, it can't be a week, it's gotta take them a month or so to be able to put data together as far as what it'll be. But I think an educational part, we talked at our public safety last night, was a tremendous part of this whole deal. With the kids, with the adults, everyone around the area. Mayor Springer talks about a young lady getting hit. I got knocked clear over the top of a car when I was 10 years old. It was not the car's fault. It was mine. I ran out in the street without seeing that second car coming. And luckily I went over the roof of the car instead of under the car. I learned. Look, it was a hard lesson, but I learned. Look, and I told Councilman Davis, there's not any of us out there that are going to win against 3,500, 4,000, 5,000 pounds. You're gonna lose. It's just gonna happen. So it is an educational deal that we really need to push at the schools, at the parks, not only signs on the street for those, but signs in the park for kids. Not to be in the middle of the street, don't chase the ball, however it is. So I think that's a big part of this.
Any other comments for the council for the discussion? Okay, so gonna move on. This was supposed to be an action item to vote, but it's not. So as you all know, we work very lean in this city. My staff is very dedicated. It's interesting because I will say, staff, have you had your break today? Have you had your lunch? No. And they kind of say that to me too. So we kind of hit the ground running every day here, and we are very, very busy. And we are not going to have a bigger staff. It's not going to grow. This city will work lean, smart and lean as we move forward. With that said, with new council and changes, this is an opportunity that I personally want to include, and one of the things when council has a question, and I'd like the public to know how we function here at City Hall. When council has a question, we answer that question and we send it out to every council person. We don't necessarily say who the question came from, because and I agree, that question may be on one of the council's mind, they may be thinking it, but may not ask it. So it's about education and how things are happening. With anything, a lot of questions about process, procedures. As Clerk Treasurer Jamie said, we are developing it. It's not going to happen. What was it, Mr. Coker, you said to me when we were talking about as we're growing where we're at this point, about stabilizing, when we had a conversation. Do you recall that conversation?
I've probably said stabilizing many times.
Yeah.
I don't recall it specifically,
Yeah.
but,
It really had to go along with as we're moving forward in processes and procedures, and that we really are, I guess, in the process of trying to stabilize the city. You would think, oh, you've had over 2 years. Well, as I said, we walked into a lot. Every time we move a little bit, there was another bump. And so it really is about stabilizing. So tonight, we were going to make an action item, but really, it's just a request from myself, the mayor, that the internal process that we provided the council with information, how to request information, understanding that it will take time for us to get back to things. And that if, when information is requested, after I review it, the appropriate staff member will be assigned to help facilitate the request and that of the information to be sent to all councilmen to maintain fairness and consistency. And yes, this is for the council, but I also believe that citizens should understand our process and how City Hall operates. And so if someone is frustrated, like, oh, I'm not getting that information, you know, we're operating lean. You may not get it today, you may not get it next week, and there may be a process that you go through, like, it will go to me as the mayor, and then I will take it to Jamie, to the appropriate staff to get information out. And so I'm just asking council to be aware of that, be patient, and if you could follow that process, we would appreciate it moving forward.
and just as it's on the agenda, but there's also discussions being had about establishing processes.
Yes.
There may not be some, or if there are, we can't find them. And so that's just a question of getting those things in place. So.
Absolutely, and as I said, it will take time. And we are working hard at that. So any other discussion? Anything? So moving on, public comment at this time. Please state your name. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed another item. So there was a discussion tonight for the council. We had Mr. Davis asked to have 2 council meetings a month. Council, you have the floor.
I feel, and many other people feel, that it's time for Cosmopolis to return to a twice monthly meetings. We need to get back on track. The council needs to get back on track, and whether it's previous history, COVID, whatever, all that. The council used to meet twice a month. They took a break during the summer for July and August. Typically, they would go to one meeting if it was malleable then. That's the way it worked. So I'm asking the council to consider returning back to 2 meetings a month. And the council is the legislative branch of the city, and it's our duty, the council's duty, to set the policy and direction of the city. And when formal meetings are held only once a month, there's a long gap between those meetings. It can create an appearance that important policy and direction is being developed outside of the council's full knowledge. And when I say that, I've been involved in the city of Cosmopolis politics. And like I said, I needed extra credit in high school, so I came when I was 16. And I started going to council meetings, and I started, watching, going to Aberdeen and Holcomb and other councils and how they work. And I still do that. I still look at other council meetings. I read other minutes. One of the things was when we were fortunate enough to have our council, Mr. Coker, join our staff, I looked at other areas that he's worked in to try to get a feel of, what's his thoughts around things. And I think that those cities function very well with his guidance, so I appreciate him being here. If I have a question, I don't want to have to call him all the time because it costs money. But if we have a council meeting, he may not have to be at every meeting, but then he can review those notes and get back to us with some structure. So I just feel like we have better oversight of the city businesses, finances, and policy matters. We have more timely discussions on issues that can't wait for a full month. The mayor just pointed out, an urgent need or the thought that there's an urgent need around a park situation that she'd like to have addressed sooner. And under the normal schedule, you got one meeting a month. So it's gonna stretch it out there till maybe June even, if there's any kind of a question around things, which I hope we can get things done sooner. But it helps us be more focused on the correct agenda items and more thoughtful discussion around those items. It helps create greater transparency and a more regular public access to government. So when we have special meetings and things like that, they have special notices, and it may not be as available for people to meet. If we have standard meeting nights, we know that the first and the third meetings, we know when those are, so you can plan for it. I think we get better momentum on projects and ordinances and follow-up items, and things don't get stale. We have less informal direction between meetings and less reliance on special meetings. So the bottom line, my thought is, meeting twice a month would help Cosmopolis City Council improve transparency, strengthen public participation, respond faster to problems, and provide more consistent oversight of city business. The reasonable compromise would be to have some summer schedule if it's appropriate. And I'd like to offer my note into the public record to go along with minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Other discussion?
Well, coming from the financial department of this situation, it puts a burden on, we have staff that have to be here. We have all the extra paper and just scheduling in general. A lot of us have a lot of other things that are going on. We have jobs. I mean, I get it, but we also have the opportunity to be able to have a special meeting if we need to. If it is something that's urgent, within 24 hours, according to our ordinance, we can have a special meeting brought forward. I don't know.
And
It just seems like it would be our staff in general, as small as it is, it puts a burden on them, they have to stay late. So you're incrementally bringing up the cost of having extra meetings a month, however many that totals. And that's my 2 cents worth on that.
And I add to that, I think a lot of our committees, struggle at times to gather membership and find shared meeting times. And in often cases, it's council members who are the bottleneck in being able to find, time to meet and to work on things between meetings. And so that cuts into some of the capacity that we have to do the work between these council meetings as well.
Yeah, because I feel we have an active council that is actually, very rarely are you hearing no meeting, no report. We are trying really hard to make sure that we have these monthly meetings, and a lot of us are on more than just one committee, so we are actually having 2 a month already on our committee meetings, and then to add another council meeting on top of it, it's like, it starts to figure out where you're gonna, and then we have other things, like I sit as an alternate on the Grays Harbor COG thing, so I have that meeting to go to, and some of us do other things. You're on the basin one
Yeah,
too,
water
so,
authority.
yeah, so some of us are already involved in other city, yeah, and so we all have other different meetings that we're doing for the city on top of that too, so it becomes like almost a full-time job for, pennies, but still, it is for the city, we are doing it, but, it just starts to compound our schedules in general, too, so, yes, I agree with Jeremy on that.
And I'm
aspect,
not
too.
council, but I will speak to my staff. When I tell you we work lean, they work very hard. And it would be an added burden, and we can call a special meeting. And the urgency about the park is, because we talked about this 3-4 years ago. So it's not like, I believe this can be accomplished within that time frame, that things can happen. It's not like, oh, it's not gonna happen. It's just, I believe when you put dates on things, there's a deadline. And everyone, and a lot of our council work full-time jobs. And if they're not working a full-time job, they're very involved in the running of the city.
I hear where you're coming from, Councilman Davis. I definitely can see where 2 would be beneficial. As our workload and as these agendas, they don't seem too extensive right now, but if committees continue to grow and thrive and we accomplish more and we have more goals to succeed, to try to succeed at, I could see that 2 could potentially come into play in the future, absolutely, so. But open for more discussion at a later time.
I've had my conversations with Councilman Davis, and I think that we get our business done as well as we can do with our monthly meetings and having our committee meetings. We stepped into this mess, what we said 2 years ago, and we could have had meetings every day. And a lot of us did. We lived here. We were down here every day trying to figure out how to put out the next fire, or at least put it down to a smolder. And this 3rd year going into it, I looked at it as, we can probably finally start to put what Councilman Davis talked about yesterday, even in our public safety, is putting some future plans together, putting this comprehensive plan, putting some teeth into it, understanding where Causey will be in 5 years from now. Councilman Davis brought up in our meeting last night about in the future, we're surplusing out 1 fire truck right now. We said we're done with the old yellow one, let's surplus it. We have no idea when we're gonna purchase the next one. And they're not cheap. We better start looking at it 2-3 years ahead of time, understood. And I think that's what we can see ourselves starting to do, is moving forward through our committees, recommendations from the citizens, recommendations from agencies that are out here trying to help us, and then come up with plans, put those plans together and put them in action. I don't know that we need 2 meetings a month to do it in. I don't know that on this floor, amazing having this group of people here tonight. Usually we have an empty audience, maybe 1-2 people show up. But we get the work done that we're supposed to get done, I believe. And I think we're doing a better job as we move forward. It was a learning process for all of us stepping in here, and we're in the process of moving forward. So I for one, I'll say it from now until the end, I'm thinking we're doing fine with the population size of Causey, the issues that we're dealing with in Cosmopolis, that we can handle our business once a month. That's my feelings.
All right. So with that said, we are not taking action on that. I think it will be something we will revisit down the road. So at this time, I'm going to move to public comments. Please state your name.
Carl Sperring, 1006 Bell Drive. Let's go down the list here. Highlands Park speed bumps. I support that 110%. As I look around here, you and I are the only ones in that neighborhood, and I'm a couple blocks away from it. You're close.
Yeah.
But I see the speed of some of the people driving up down Dehan or Franklin. I like the idea. you know, the cost is minuscule, especially if we compare it to a child or an adult getting hit. I think you're fools not to do it. That's all I can say to that. If we're gonna spend some money, well, I'll talk to that later. The processes, communications, and requests for information. I read through that document. It's a well-constructed document, but that's everything I learned in training multiple years ago that I think all of you have had on how council people should be acting. So I think it might be a little redundant, but maybe you need to post that on the wall so other citizens can see it so they understand the process. I think it's just redundant.
Thank you. We did just have training on that.
Meetings twice a month. Any of you that know me or Mr. Davis know we have not always seen eye to eye. But I can't back him up and support him enough on this. While I understand what Mr. Skinner was saying, and I agree, you're working hard, doing a good job moving forward. But I think transparency in the view of your citizens, your paying public, may be the real issue here. A few of us do read the minutes, or we talk to some of our council people and kind of keep up. But I think if we had the opportunity to present what's going on in a more regular, nearer basis, I think the community would feel better. I think they would feel that there's more transparency. Because I think there's a feeling of so many things are happening in committee behind us, we don't know what's going on. Just my 2 cents.
I see that out on Facebook, those comments. And so,
Transparency, twice a month might help you there, Mayor.
and so always encourage citizens to come in if they have a question. And with our new clerk treasurer and the reports that she is putting out, anyone can come in if they have a question on a financial
Work 9
issue.
to 5, it's tough to get in, isn't it?
Understand, working all day. Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Not right now.
Hi, Destiny Branstead. We live on the corner of Glencoe and Franklin. I'd like to comment on the speed bump issue. While I think that the speed bumps are a pretty decent idea, we've got a ring camera. Even if I'm not home, I see the traffic that goes through there. And a speed bump, at least in my opinion, isn't gonna stop the people that don't even bother to slow down at the stop sign, at least on our corner. A speed bump really isn't gonna bother the 4 or 5 individuals, at least in my opinion, who don't bother to do the speed limit in their big 4x4 trucks. So while that would be a good idea, it'll slow down the people who do the speed limit. But the people who don't, they're not gonna it's not gonna bother them in their giant trucks that go through there. They're just gonna breeze right through them. So while I think it shows in your report that it would cost, between $1,200 and $1,800, what is the cost to just put a cop up there every once in a while and just ticket the individuals when they're not slowing down, when they're not stopping?
And we did, when this came up a couple of years ago, when I first came on the first summer here, that concern was voiced. And so Officer Bailey was up there a lot, but we can't, to be reality, we can't have an officer posted up there. And if you recall, we had that little white speed sign up there, and that seemed to help. And then Commander Timmons at the safety meeting last night, also that question was asked and posed. And I think he probably, Chief Green, did he discuss that with you a little more? Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, kind of the challenge for us is, we talked about statistics, is trying to find out, when does this happen? Is this do we think this is like a high school student coming to and from school? Is this somebody going and work in the morning, coming home at night, those kinds of things? Because if it's a low volume, but we know it's relatively the same people like you speak of, then trying to having the data so we know when it happens is the best thing for us, because we can put a person up there for 4 hours. If there's nobody coming down the road, then it's just it doesn't solve what we're trying to accomplish. So yeah, that's why we encourage you to just call us and let us know if there's a problem person, you probably do. Yeah, let us know. Yeah.
While I hate to be that person, there are, unfortunately, at least on our hill, from what we see, it really is a couple individuals that are the problem. Not everybody, myself included, I'm sure all of you catch yourself going a little bit over the speed limit every once in a while, but there are a few individuals out there that just have no care in the world for stopping. I drove through most of Cosmopolis. I've lived here most of my life, other than, 2 years that I went to high school in Montesano. And I think our hill, the Bell, Franklin, Glencoe, Dundee side of it, we don't have sidewalks where most of Cosmopolis does. And so it's harder for, when we're walking with our kids, things like that, riding bikes, we don't have a sidewalk to be on. We have to be on the street, or we have to be in somebody's yard or something like that. And it's not super accommodating. And I know budget-wise, things are tight, but, the older generation, they've lived here, but they're not the future of Cosmopolis. Our kids are the future of Cosmopolis. So putting those dollars where it counts, absolutely, I agree, educate the kids on safety on the roads, but maybe put the dollars into making safer options for those kids to go to the park, go down the hill, go to school. That's where it counts.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening from? Okay. Council comments. Okay.
I would like to say that anything we do around a particular park, we should be considering doing around all the parks and all the school districts and that. So the idea of traffic calming should be a citywide issue. And although I agree that it is tighter up there in that particular neighborhood because it doesn't have sidewalks and so forth, safety is our number one priority. And so I agree we have to do something, but we should also apply those to the other areas around town, not just one specific place. I'd like to say thank you very much to the staff for all their continued hard work. They do make it look pretty easy from the outside, and I know that they do put in a lot of effort, and I appreciate each and every one. I'm hoping that we're looking to hire some city public works people in the near future.
Again, as I showed, right now we're in a transition, and we do have support for public work. We contract, I think I've mentioned this a few times, so we contract with Community Water System because we have to have a certified technician, along with contracting with him. If Donnie needs help, and that's a person that's qualified in all areas of public work, water, everything, he will make arrangements for assistance that day. And so we also have a volunteer on site. When the park committee met, public work committee met with Donnie, part of the planning was to look at projects where he will need assistance. The thing is, let me tell you, hiring public work employees, qualified employees, is challenging. And with that said, we are probably going to, moving forward, look at 2 public work positions. Part-time, we have a lot of applicants for that. We are reviewing that. And that will help cover the work and overlap for Donnie. We will also have our community water system support. To be quite honest, the city can function well and be kept up with that amount of staff when we get the 2 part-time. That will also save us costs in insurance and benefits too. And so we do have, we will be public works, we will be looking at those applicants, and I'm hoping that's going to happen within the next month. But we have those ongoing conversations with Donnie and our public work and our public work team. So just to reassure you, he's not on his own out there. If he, and the question, what if he doesn't show up? then we have our community water person that shows up for the day he's not here. He knows our city, he does our testing, he does our reporting for us. Okay? Any other comments? Okay, if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Other comments?
Oh, thank you.
Public comment's not on the agenda.
Carl again.
Oh,
Okay,
oh,
it seems pretty, small amount of money for the speed bumps, which I support, and that's great. We've got a few other infrastructure things that probably wouldn't cost a lot of money that need to be looked at, and they're really heading towards that preventative maintenance that Mr. Davis brought up with the equipment there at the last meeting, I believe. At the bottom of the hill that you drive at least twice a day, there's that little dip there. I stopped and looked at it tonight. It's starting to break apart. Now, that can be fixed. We gotta get a weather window here, and it's gonna be a few months before we get that. Some cold patch and some tar, we'll fix that. We'll be good for 5 years probably. I'm gonna guess that's not the only pothole that's starting to form in this town. If we get them now, we can get them cheap, or we can pay the piper later. Just a heads up.
Yeah, I addressed the potholes last meeting, and we
Thank you.
did discuss that in the Public Works meeting, this one, and Donnie, yeah, it is a weather permitting deal.
Absolutely.
We have identified, there are multiple, over on C Street by Mill Creek, there's some good doozy ones, cause I come down Mill Creek and that's what I use, so I like to go around them. So yeah, he has been going
Good.
around town and identifying where those potholes are, and the plan is, as soon as, cause he's gotta have like 3-4 days, and cause he's gotta dig them all out and do the whole process, but yeah, it is part of the plan to.
Yeah, it's weather window.
Yeah.
In April, May.
And this
June.
year, we're having extremely lot of rain, yeah, I mean, I just saw some posts where 2 years ago it was 65
Put the
degrees, so.
Band-Aid on now, we don't have to.
Yeah,
put this
so,
plan.
yeah, but it is in the plan as far as
Jeremy?
soon as the weather, yeah.
Thank you.
we
Yeah.
do have a spreadsheet with all the potholes
Yeah,
on.
and the sidewalks, buckled.
We
job.
have a spreadsheet with that. As Councilman Darcy said, we have a schedule and a plan for that.
Yeah.
So that is in the works.
At this time, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right,
All in favor?
yeah, thank you,
Opposed? We're out of line.
thank you.
Well, congratulations for being recognized. and
Oh,
Thank you
yeah,
for all you do.
thank you, that was, totally unexpected.
I could have went on more, like you helping in the flooding, you
Oh,
cleaning the
yeah,
streets.
it's-